Hello and welcome.
Welcome back to the show, to the Church of Mark, and we welcome Gladwyn Badger to the show. Welcome, Gladwyn.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming down on this cold day here in Toronto. And you traveled here from Waterloo, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I've been in Waterloo, Kitchener-Waterloo area now for the last, last 7 months.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've been enjoying it. It's been, it's a little bit quieter than Toronto.
Right.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been a good. It's been a good place to land,
And you're at the University of Waterloo working with the Indigenous Relations Office.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I plan events there. I'm the events coordinator in the Office of Indigenous Relations. So we do everything in the university to indigenize and decolonize. So wherever we can.
That's fantastic. We did a show there, I guess, back in the summer. Was it the summer? I don't know when it was. It was sometime. It was pretty hot.
National Indigenous History Month.
Oh, that's right. Correct. Yeah. And that was a great time. And that's where we got to see you in action. And I guess you got to see us in action as well.
Yeah.
And do you have any exciting events coming up for 2025?
Well, other than, the biggest project we got is the powwow, the yearly powwow.
And when's that?
It's usually in September.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've been, it's February now. But yeah, I've been making my rounds, contacting people, already gearing up for the powwow. I've never been a powwow person. Like I didn't grow up on the powwow trail. When I was a wee lad, I was a grass dancer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was a grass dancer for a very brief period.
Okay.
Made it to a couple powwows, and sometimes with in my community back home in Alberta, in Grande Prairie, Alberta. Shout out to Grande Prairie, GP.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't grow up culturally, and it's something that we never did as a family was hit the powwow trail and all this stuff. So when I got to this position in Waterloo, my first project there was to plan a powwow. I'm like, whoa.
Wow, okay.
Like, plan a powwow. And then, I'm in the powwow meetings and we're talking about, you need the big drum, you need a host drum, a co-host drum, you need a veteran and all this. I'm like, whoa,
Right.
It was pretty, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, but it was really, my team is really awesome because they even though I don't have that experience, right, they trusted me with it, and
good.
I think it was one of the more successful powwows, and since I think it was like the second powwow since COVID happened.
Oh,
so,
okay, right.
But it went well. It went really well. So now that I have that experience behind me, planning that first powwow with like 2 months notice.
Okay. That's not
I have a whole year now,
okay,
right? So now I can see all the wheels in motion, and I feel better about it. Yeah.
And so, do you attend other powwows to do some research or just have fun as well?
Yeah, no, I have been. So now I was actually at the Brock University powwow.
Okay.
They just had one.
I heard that's a good one.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's an indoor. It's in their I guess one of their gyms. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
But I got to go to that. Also, last September, so the University of Waterloo now has an Eagle staff.
Okay.
And the Eagle staff was given to me as it's a leadership thing. Mm-hmm. And I went down to Michigan with one of our elders at the University of Waterloo, Mayengan. Went down to the Michigan with him to an Eagle staff ceremony. And I was sitting in the stands of the Eagle Staff gathering. And I was watching him. We have all the Eagle Staff carriers in a circle, and everybody has their piece to say. And when it was my Indian's turn to say something, he went up there, and he's very, he's a good leader, a great leader. He has a way of speaking. And I was just sitting there watching him, and I drove down with him. This was in like Gun Lake. Gun Lake is a place in Michigan. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching him, listening to what he has to say, because I always listen to him. And he never said one thing to me on the drive down. But he's, when it was his time to speak, he called me down, and he's like, I'm going to give this Eagle Staff to me. So now it's my responsibility to carry the Eagle Staff for the University of Waterloo.
Oh, wow.
So it's a big responsibility.
It is.
And I was very honored to have that passed down to me. So one of the things I really wanted to do was go to the Brock powwow and carry the Eagle Staff there. So that's one of the things I want to do is go to as many powwows as I can with our Eagle Staff,
right? And
to learn,
right. So maybe explain to people like what the Eagle Staff is, what it sort of represents, and why it is so important.
Wow, so that's a pretty big question. I'm still learning about the Eagle Staff myself, so I guess for him to pass that, he knows about my history as a Canadian Armed Forces veteran.
Okay,
and veterans and people who serve for their country, I guess that is it shows leadership traits, right? It shows leadership, a warrior kind of spirit. So that I think that, and then just he and I, the time that we spent, he has a love for music as well, right?
Right.
And so when I met him, we connected, instantly. He's a big Elvis fan, and we talked, and we connected immediately, and then he asked if I wanted to come down to Michigan with him to watch this, because it's an Anishinaabe tradition. And I know there's I've seen Eagle Staffs back home in Alberta, but from my understanding, it's an Anishinaabe tradition. So I'm learning a lot more about Anishinaabe culture, and it was good.
Right. And your background, you're Cree, is that correct?
Yeah,
right.
I'm a Cree, Niheo, Treaty 8.
So what sort of, I guess, similarities or differences have you found between the two cultures?
Well, actually, our languages are kind of similar. That's something I really I noticed when I went to the Eagle Staff gathering. Was we had people speaking Anishinaabe, and I'm like, that sounds a lot like Cree. Like that they had translated. I'm like, oh, so that's what that. Okay. And then, I was up in, where's that? It's up, I can't remember. Oh, Kettle Point. Do you know where?
Yeah, of course. Kettle Point.
Kettle Point.
Right.
Yeah, I was up
course,
there. Yeah, I went up there. And, one thing I noticed, too, was like thunderbirds. I see thunderbirds all over the place. I'm like, wow. I was like, what is that? So I was with my friend who brought me up there. He told me about, the whole history about what happened up there with the military and all that stuff, right? And then I see thunderbirds everywhere. I'm like, what's with all the thunderbirds? Like, what is that? I think it's cool. It's fascinating. And then he's like, just hang on a second. I'm going to tell you. And so he brought me to, one of the beaches there, and on the beaches there's like rocks, like they look like rocks, but they're like circular, and they look like eggs. Oh. And so then he gave me a teaching about those what look like rocks, but those are actually thunderbird eggs.
Okay.
So he gave me a whole teaching about thunderbird eggs and what they mean to that area. So that was another really eye-opening experience as a Cree person coming out to Anishinaabe country.
Yeah. And you've been in, I guess, Anishinaabe country for a while now.
Yeah. So since Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee country. I got out here 2023, May 2023. I came out, I left Alberta in May 2023, was living in Kingston for a while, studied my master's degree there in arts leadership. And then I migrated to Toronto for a little while here, and I did a work placement at as an intern, I guess, at Red Music Rising.
Right, Red Music Rising.
Yeah.
All right, awesome.
Yeah. And then I wound up in Waterloo, indigenizing everything.
Oh, that's great.
That's my goal, is to indigenize everything.
Well, in addition, I guess, to indigenizing everything, you're also a musician yourself. That released.
Right. I forgot about that.
You just released an EP in the last couple of months. In November, it came out, and it's been on the charts, on the top 30 in Edmonton, CKUA, now for several weeks now. Now, tell us about that process and how you kind of got into music, because what you do, for listeners that aren't aware, is that he does instrumental sort of surf rock music, I guess, for lack of a better description. Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, so I guess we'll have to go way back. My love for instrumental surf music. The first time, and you'll hear this from a lot of instrumental surf musicians. Their gateway into surf music was Pulp Fiction.
Oh yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah,
so everybody, when I first saw that movie and I heard that soundtrack, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, this is like, I was like kind of weird, like as a kid. Like I grew up. I had an older brother, and he liked classic rock. Obviously, like he liked, AC/DC, Iron Maiden, and all these things. And then my mom listened to, George Jones, Johnny Cash, all that kind of music. But I was really drawn to like the 50s and like 60s and stuff like that. So there was a radio station, an AM radio station that I could pick up from Calgary. And it was called 66 CFR, and they played 50s rock and roll, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. I was drawn to that the image, like their hair and all this stuff, and all this the way they slicked their hair and all that stuff, just rock and roll music. But when Pulp Fiction came out, that Dick Dale,
right.
Missourlu, that opening credits to that,
right.
It just hit me, right? And I was like, wow, what is that? I couldn't believe it. So Pulp Fiction soundtrack was all 50s rock and roll and surf music. I listened to Chuck Berry, all that stuff, and I just loved it, right? So went through music school, MacEwan University, and I love jazz. That's where I didn't really listen to jazz too much, right? Growing up, like I said, I listened to a lot of heavy metal and stuff like this. Learn about jazz music, and then I had students in my class. We were jamming and we were playing jazz. I'm like, okay, well, this is all instrumental music. Like, what if we played like Wipeout or something, right? Wipeout or Pipeline, right? So we started jamming that stuff, and then the pandemic hit and stuff like this, and then we had time, right? Right. So I was like, well, what if we started a surf band? So we started a surf band, and we started playing covers of the Ventures and Astronauts and Surfer Joe and all this stuff, right? So and then, but when we were doing those covers, I mean, I didn't, playing covers is fun, but then you eventually get to a point where it's like, okay, well, this isn't really fun anymore, right? So I want to make something of my own, and my bandmates, they weren't really interested, like, to do that, but I was. So I want to see what I could make. So I wrote Renegade. Renegade. I wrote Renegade. And that's how we started. That's how I started like writing original surf music.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool because we really like all the tracks because you recorded some of those here, of course, and it's very unique because it's not something that you hear like out on the market all the time, other than say a Quentin Tarantino film.
Yeah, right.
So, are you working on new material in the same sort of genre, or are you planning on experimenting in different genres, or what's the future of Gladwyn Badger look like?
Well, for me, yeah, I guess I mean I can't get away from that surf sound. It's just I love it. That drippy reverb, the whammy, all that stuff. So I've been working on writing more stuff like that. But yeah, I've been dabbling into like writing other stuff too and experimenting. But that's more just experimenting with stuff, not really, as serious as I am with the surf stuff. I really like the surf style and like the spaghetti western, Ennio Morricone kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So watching like those spaghetti western films, and yeah, I really enjoy that style of music. It speaks to me. So everybody has their genre, their style, and it's just so weird that since watching Pulp Fiction, that was the one that kind of spoke to me the most, the loudest. Yeah,
and that style, that genre, it has a very unique sound. Like you said, it's kind of sort of drenched in that reverb, that spring reverb, and like single coil guitars, like Fender or something like that. What kind of guitar are you playing?
I got I've been playing offset guitars, right? Fender Jaguars and Jazz Masters and stuff like that. But I just recently picked up a DePinto guitar. I saw somebody selling it online here in Toronto, and I said, oh my God. So one of my favorite bands is the Lost Straitjackets. And they all have DePinto guitars, right? And they're single coil, and they look kind of weird and like out there, kind of, So that's what I've been playing now. So it's been, I haven't recorded with it or anything yet, but that'll come.
All right, I have to check that out. How's it spelled? It's
a D-I so capital D-I and then capital P-I-N-T-O.
DePinto. Okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah.
Where are they made? Do you know?
I think they're made in Philadelphia.
Okay, so American made. Okay,
Philadelphia or New York. I can't remember. Right. Yeah, one of those two cities.
And are you using like a Fender amp to go through? For that sound?
Exactly. Yeah.
With the spring reverb.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunate because I left a lot of my stuff back home in Alberta. I packed up my little Pontiac Vibe that I had and moved across the country, but I couldn't bring everything with me.
Right.
And I had a lot of my gear is back home, so I actually got to get back home for Christmas and see all my old stuff. But you
can ship it down.
Yeah,
that's what freight is for, and shipping, right? I believe.
Yeah. So slowly I'm acquiring more gear, right? Since I've come out here, because like I said, I came out this way with just whatever I could stuff in my car,
right? And a shirt on your back, and that's it. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
do you plan on doing any live performances with this project?
Yeah. So that's the other thing, right? Challenging is finding players, but. I've been meeting with a couple of people, we've been jamming and stuff like that. So, I'm hoping to, get some live performance out there, some live footage, and actually getting to play these songs again, because it's been a minute since I've played live, which is unfortunate, but, like I said, everything has its, its time and place.
That's right. Yeah.
Making the move out here was a pretty big.
Well, that's a big step. It's a big challenge in itself, for sure.
Yeah.
So speaking of challenges, what other challenges do you see that are maybe specific towards Indigenous musicians and say not other musicians? Are there any challenges that are inherent just to what we're doing in our community, or are all musicians experiencing the same amount of challenges and issues that everyone's having?
Yeah, well, for me, I guess it's what I found the most challenging was not really, because we like as Indigenous people, we all grow up with this, and maybe not just Indigenous people, but I think this imposter syndrome, like we don't really fit in, we don't really know how to connect. So you and I, like, it's so funny because for your listeners out there, I met Mark because I was doing research on Indigenous leadership in the music industry, and we got to talking and all this stuff, and then Brian
Right McLeod. Hey, Brian, if you're watching.
Yeah, so Brian connected us, and Brian is, just a world of knowledge in Indigenous music, and
Absolutely.
he was doing it before, this what we're doing now.
We have his book, the Encyclopedia on Native Music, and Brian's our neighbor. He's just down the street there.
Yeah, so that's how we got connected, and I had like these songs, but I didn't really know how to, especially like moving into a new part of the country,
right.
Not having a support system,
Right.
or people I could just so then it's just breaking out, and I guess having that confidence in your work, and not being afraid to just ask questions, because I came here to interview you.
That's right.
And then I said, well, hey, he's got a studio here. Well, hey, man, I got this music.
It's funny how the universe works sometimes. It connects people that need to be connected.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, it's I think that's one of the biggest challenges, and obviously, location and stuff like that. It's something we all, especially if you live in like a remote community, it's hard to I live in Waterloo, and they're saying, hey, come on down here. Oh, okay, yeah, I can come on down. I guess it's not so hard. But if I was up,
sure,
flying community,
that's right.
whatever, yeah,
it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. So.
Not without any degree of effort, I guess.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right on. So with I guess there's challenges all musicians are having, but it seems like moving forward, especially in the Indigenous sort of music industry, there's a lot more opportunities. Like we have, the Countdown, we have Sirius XM. There's different conferences and other sort of showcase opportunities for Indigenous musicians. Now, with that said, because of all these opportunities that are being, presented to us, there's also grifters and other people that are maybe fraudsters that want to get in on these opportunities. And I think, where this is leading, and that's the discussion about pretendians. What do you think we can do to try to minimize pretendians taking away opportunities from like authentic Indigenous artists?
Yeah, that's a really tough. Sorry, I'm just gonna get a drink.
Oh yeah,
here.
please. Yeah, I gotta drink one. That's a tough subject, everyone. Don't worry, it's just water in here. We promise.
Yeah, I think. I think because we've left the door open for so many years, by being so. Because
welcoming
we're
and inviting.
Yeah,
That's
right. Because like as Indigenous people, we're so we take the high road, Right. So we're very forgiving. We're very welcoming. So for a lot of years, we had self-identification as a thing, but that caused a lot of problems with like you said, grifters, and this has been going on for many years. I guess for us, what we're doing at the University of Waterloo is like you had mentioned before we started rolling,
Right.
was our process for verifying Indigenous students, faculty, and staff,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty extensive, right? Like,
It is. I started reading the page, and I didn't finish it because you were coming. And but it was a long, lengthy read. Looked like there was a lot of things that they had thought about and it's sort of taken an account for.
right.
But please elaborate if you can tell.
No, there is, and it's a work in progress because
Right.
there are still oversights, but we're listening to the community to fix those kind of things. So I think in the Indigenous music community, I guess you'd call it, we can. I mean, you're doing something great with the verified Indigenous performer.
We're trying to see if that works.
Right. Yeah. So, and I think it's important for non-Indigenous organizations to take this responsibility, especially if we're talking about reconciliation and decolonizing.
Right.
Like the industry, right?
That's right.
So I don't think that they should be looking just to Indigenous people. Hey, can you, I guess do this, verify this artist. They should be doing that on their own, I think, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to say because I think we're just kind of it's a growing pains. We're just, even with the VIP program, we're kind of learning as we're doing it as well. And from what I hear, the Indigenous Music Office, the newly formed IMO, they're going to be working on hammering out policy sometime this year. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I predict, and I'm hopeful, because I'm an optimist, that by the end of this year, 2025, it'll be very unappealing and unattractive to want to be a pretendian, because we'll have so many things in place. Also, public education, I think, and public education awareness about the issue is a huge sort of step we can take in combating this as well. Because a lot of people aren't really aware of the issue. Mainstream Canada started getting aware of it with the Buffy expose. But a lot of people still support her, which is interesting. But that's
we call
another
those
story.
defendians.
That's right, defendians. That's right. Yeah. And there's this. I think just general mainstream Canadians, they don't understand the different designations. They don't understand that there's Inuit, First Nations, Métis, and they don't even know what those mean. Just like before we were rolling, we were talking about how most Canadians sort of misinterpret what Métis means. They think it means mixed, but no, there's a whole other history specific to that nation. So I think it's going to be an education process moving forward, and that's kind of what we're doing over the next year, is trying to educate people, and we've been doing that at various conferences we've been attending, and we look forward to doing that at Folk Alliance International. So with that said, say there's a young Indigenous musician watching this back home on the Rez, or even here in the city, and they want to do what Gladwyn Badger does. What kind of advice can you give to that musician just watching this, and maybe they don't know how to record, or they don't know what the first step is? What kind of advice do you give them?
Well, I'd say first off, practice.
That's right.
Practice. Practice your songwriting. Practice arranging. And also, don't be afraid to reach out to the community. I know it can be very scary, even for me right now. Today, I still feel that doubt, like going to jam sessions and going to open jams and be like, "Ooh, will people actually like my music? I'm not sure. Like, should I take this guitar solo? I don't know, right?" I would just say, just go for it, because you can't get any worse than where you are. You'll only get better, and you get better playing with other musicians, right? So
that's right.
I think that's what I would say. And yeah, it's
hard because, like you said earlier, I mean, a lot of people suffer from imposter syndrome, but I think the best way to get over that is just keep doing it. And it's brave to keep doing something that makes you vulnerable. Because when you do the arts, whether you're singing or playing guitar, you're doing it in front of a bunch of people, and anything can happen. You can hit the wrong note or a string could break, but at the end of the day, it's all about persistence, I think, and keep going, right?
Yeah,
and you have to believe in yourself, too.
Yeah, well, and I remember actually, like, when we talked last year, when we were doing our, when I was interviewing you, and we talked about a little bit about songwriting, and that was one of the things that you kind of hammered home was just keep writing songs, no matter how bad you think they are,
right.
but just constantly keep writing songs. So that's something I resonated with me, so I keep working on it. And actually, like, it's so funny with the one track, Midnight Freight.
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, so I put so much effort into writing Rez Rok and Renegade. Midnight Freight was like, okay, well, I heard like this riff in my head. I'm like, it was a bass riff. I'm like, okay, let's put that down. Well, let's put this instrumentation. Let's put this. And I wrote that song in like 5-6 hours. So sometimes, like, and I sent it to you and you're like, oh, I love this. This is great. And yeah, and it turned out to be whatever it is. So if you're listening, check it out.
That's right. And where can people find your music? It's on all the streaming platforms, Spotify and Apple Music and Tidal. And where else, Laura? I mean... Sorry, Laura does all the back end here of the company. It's everywhere, right, Laura? Okay, it's Amazon and everywhere. Okay, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And then be sure to let us know if you have any live shows, if you plan on doing any live shows
I do,
in the future.
absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
It'd be great to see that music live as well.
Yes,
and you're working on new stuff, so be sure to let us know when you have new tracks. We'd love to hear all that.
Yes.
And any parting words for the audience before we wrap up?
Parting words, just I don't know. I guess I just want to say thank you to both you, Laura, Mark, for working on this with me and doing all the stuff that you do for our community, because it's been just amazing working with you too.
Well, you're very welcome. It's always great working with you.
Yes.
We always come by anytime. I know it's impossible because you're in Waterloo. It's like 2 hours away, but great. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, Gladwyn, and we look forward to following your career and what's coming down the road.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Great, and thank you for watching.